Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am working at my laboratory here, working on my Washington, D.C. project. I have chosen to do the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, and now I have to try to figure out a way to build the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. Not an easy task, but I have some materials here and I have some ideas for you. I'm not going to build the whole thing today, but I'm going to get some ideas. You have to have an idea in your head. You have to try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you go back to the drawing board and you figure out what went wrong or what you're missing. Okay? So, just to take a quick peek at what we're doing here. Here is my table, my laboratory, so to speak. Here are some materials that we can use. I am choosing cardboard because I find that cardboard is super easy to use. You can shape it any way you want. It takes a little bit of work with the scissors, but you can make them any shape you want, any size you need. And a lot of times, most buildings are based on rectangles and squares, like my house and many of your houses. So squares and rectangles from my friend at Amazon, my Mrs. Houdelette's best friends at Amazon and FedEx and all those places. So I am doing the Lincoln Memorial, not an easy one to do. So we're looking at it here. The first thing I did was I went to Lincoln Memorial and I clicked on images, and I get a whole bunch of different images, some that I will use, some that I can't use. One that I really like is this big one here that is from the aerial view because it shows me a little bit of the sides as well. A lot of them just show the front, but this shows me the general thing. Generally, it's a rectangle with a small rectangle on top, and it is surrounded by columns. If you have done any research on Abraham Lincoln or the memorial, you'll realize that the number of columns is 36, and that represented how many states he brought back together during the Civil War. So how the heck am I going to make 36 columns surrounding a building? So right now, my first step is to just find a box that I can use as the main chamber or the main building. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over if I can. What I'll do later is cut off these edges, the flaps, so that I just have the flip it over and have this empty cavity right here. Okay, my problem is that I can't put columns on the outside here because they won't be sticking to anything. It'll be hard to have things stand up and not connected. So as you can see here, there's an overhang at the top and the bottom which connects them. So I went searching, I found a bigger box, I cut off a piece of the box, and I said, this is going to be perfect. But when I tried it this way, it overhangs here, great, but it's kind of too small to overhang here. So I had to adjust a little bit, and I am going to use the flap too, even though I'm a little nervous about that flap because sometimes it gets, as they say, flappy. Okay, now I have an overhang all the way around because I do know from looking at pictures that there are columns on the side and columns in the front. This will be my front, so to speak. Okay, so for right now I'm just going to push that back a little bit. Okay, my front, my top. Now if you remember the picture, I need another square on the top, but I'll work on that later. And now I have a spot here. If I create another whole piece out of this piece right here, for the bottom, I'll have something that I can connect my column at the bottom and connect my column at the top, and hopefully, it'll stay standing up. Okay? So that's my first step, is to try to figure out what pieces I will need and what kind of shapes and materials I'm going to use. My first step is I'm going to use cardboard for the majority of the work, and I'm going to use a basic square box, rectangle box, and from there I'll go forward. I'll get some columns here. Hopefully maybe I'll even make a little hole in here that I can open up. I've seen some kids do that in the past where they have a little trap door that doesn't really exist in real life, but when you do that, then you can see the statue of Abraham Lincoln there. Okay, I have to cut out this big opening here because in real life it is a giant opening where people can walk in and out of. Now, many of the memorials in Washington, D.C. have what they call columns. And I'm going to see if I can show you my easy way of making columns, because I've done this for a few years now. Let's see if I can get my. I don't have a fancy phone stand, selfie stick, or anything like that. But let's see if I can do this, and maybe I can do this, and it'll stand up on its own. Maybe, just maybe. Okay, it's close, as long as it doesn't fall down. Here's what I do. Now, I could not find a regular marker to save my life, but I have a highlighter here, okay? The regular markers are nice and straight. There's none of this thing going on here, so this is going to mess me up a little bit, but I will do my best with what I have right now. Okay, so what you do is you just simply roll it like you're rolling a flute or something, making a flute. You roll it with the marker inside, okay? Then, this is not going to be perfect because, I'm rushing, but clear tape. I usually do one at the top and one at the bottom. Clear tape, hold it together, and if it's nice and tight, if you've done a nice job and kept it relatively tight, you can then get something to push the marker out the bottom. Come on, marker. Jeez, this thing doesn't want to come out. This is the first time I've ever had to try to explain how to build DC projects virtually, so you're going to have to bear with me. I'm just pushing down on one end, and there, ba-doom, it comes out. Now you have a pretty decent looking column. Now, it's not going to be the right size right off the bat, but the beauty of that is you just cut it. Okay? So I have to make 35 more of these, of course, because mine has 36 columns, which is crazy. But if yours has columns too, that is one way that you can do it. Easy way to make columns. Then you can tape it up here at the top to the piece of cardboard like this. Tape it right here, and there you go. Now the next question you're going to ask me is, Mr. Hulep, pretty sure that the Lincoln Memorial is not brown. It is white. Okay, I have a fix for that. I have a couple different fixes, depending on what you can get your hands on and what you have hanging around the house. One is spray paint. Spray paint works great. Do it outside, please, if you're going to do it. Silly kids. But that's a cheap way to do it, and it doesn't really affect the quality of the cardboard too much, because what I'm going to tell you next is you could also get some white paint and just paint it. Now, if you put too much white paint on, if you paint it up too much, it starts to get a little weaker. It starts to bend a little bit here and there. We've had that problem too. But listen, we're not looking for perfection. We're looking for some creativity and some fun and some family time working on this project together, I hope. My plan is to probably spray paint it when I'm done, or I do have some white paint hanging around the basement. But constantly giving yourself a plan of attack. What am I going to do next? What are the next steps? Also, I forgot to mention white duct tape. Get it for $1 at the dollar store, right? The old dollar store, okay? So, there it goes. Hey, come back here. So, my next step is I need to cut another piece of the big thing for the base. I have to do 35 more columns. I have to figure out how they are organized, because if you go back to the internet and you look up, I literally typed in how are the columns of the Lincoln Memorial spread out or something like that, and it showed me. Somewhere on the internet has it. So I can see that I think there was 12 in the front, in the back, 12 in the front, and then 12 more in the front, and then a couple, maybe 8 down the side, 8 down the side here, and then a few inside the building itself. So that's how they broke it up, the 36. So I need to do a little more research on that. I need to get this stuff white. I need to get it all put together with white duct tape. Well, that will match. And then I have to start putting these together. And then I have to decide on the top. The interior of the Lincoln Memorial is pretty complicated. It has some speeches on the walls, and it has a statue of Abraham Lincoln sitting down on a giant throne, a giant chair. So that is probably next down the line. That's 2 steps down the line. I'm not going to think about that yet. I need to get this building built. I need to start making it look like a white building surrounded by columns first, and I will leave the top kind of wide open, so to speak, so that anything I do at the inside, I can think about that later on. I can do a little more research on that. I'm not sure how I'm going to do a statue of Abraham Lincoln, because I, my friends, am not a clay master. So clay is a challenge for me, so I'm not sure how I'm going to make it happen. But I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up. I'm going to think about it some more. Hopefully by our next video, you will see I don't know, half-done Lincoln Memorial, and it'll start to make sense, and it'll start to take shape, and hopefully you guys are having this much fun, and hopefully you're thinking about different decisions you can make to make yours awesome and unique, and have a little fun with it. Okay, my friends? Till next time, this is just phase 1 of the construction project. I will send you a video with phase 2 as soon as I am successful at getting some paint. Okay? Thanks. Talk to you soon. Bye.